Welcome to Vedic Mathematics Basis Base Values classes. Today in this phase 7 we are chasing the features of 3-space VMST format. In this concluding lesson of this phase, lesson 42, our focus is upon dimension fold format. We know that 3-space VMST is permitting initiation in terms of hypercube 3. We further recapitulate that hypercube 3 is of 7 versions. These 7 versions of hypercube 3 become the representative regular bodies of 7 geometries of 3 space. Let us further recapitulate that our initiation and exposure to the format and features of 3-space VMST format have taken us to 7x7 grid. Let us open a page in our 3-space VMST notebook. Give it a note that it is a page of conclusion of the features initiated during this phase, and in terms of these features we shall be making use of the pure values for the applied values to be worked out as 3-space VMST. The page shall be given a designation, a name, that heading that it is 7x7 grid. 7x7 grid be taken as the sum up of conclusion of the features and values of 3-space VMST format. 3-space VMST format ultimately takes us to this 7x7 grid. The first row of this grid is of values -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 and 3. It is parallel to the 7 signatures geometries of 3-space. These signatures of 3-space geometry as -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 and 3 are parallel to the features of their respective representative regular bodies, being the 7 versions of hypercube 3. The 7 versions of hypercube 3 are taking us that at the middle, at the 4th version is a version where half boundary is intact and half boundary stands stripped off. By half boundary intact, we mean that 3 surface plates are intact while remaining 3 surface plates are absent. Those are stripped off. Therefore, this becomes a zero signature geometry, as that -3 and +3 parallel to the absence and presence of the surface plates gives us as a net result a zero feature, zero signature, zero value. In this context, we have seen that this zero signature becomes a placement at the middle of this row. Now this placement at middle of the row, when is taken in a sequential order, then it takes us to a sequential reach of 7 steps long progression. This 7 steps long progression as such in the context of these 7 versions can be taken as that the first stage is when all the 6 surface plates are intact, then when 5 surface plates are intact, 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. So therefore sequentially these can be arranged as first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and 7th versions. So these 7 versions permit us to reach at the organization as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. In a reverse orientations, it also can be taken as this is the first version, then second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh. Therefore, it will take us that in this opposite orientation, we are having order of these versions as reaching from 7 to 1 or 7 to 1. It in fact collectively in its both orientations becomes of value 14. This value 14 we know is of organization 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is parallel to hypercube 4. Fourfold manifestation of hypercube 4, the representative regular body of 4 space, gives us value 14. Value 14 becomes the summation value of fourfold layers of hypercube 4. Therefore, we can visualize that this value 4, which remains intact in both the orientations, is parallel to a feature which deserves to be imbibed well. Here we can also have a pause and take note that the formulation sapt, which has simple rendering as 7, gives us TCV value as 14. So this feature, that formulation sapt, which means 7, takes us as the transcendental code value being 14. Now let us have a pause here. Let us revisit the text of Ganita Sutras. We see that Ganita Sutra 1, Ekadhiken Purven, and Ganita Sutra 14, Eka Nunen Purven, are of opposite orientations. It is this feature which deserves to be imbibed well. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to continuously remain in transcendental state and to comprehend and imbibe all these features. Therefore, this Ekadhiken Purven is like we are from value 0, we are going as plus 1, then 1 plus 1, 2, and like that we are progressing. Ekadhiken Nunen, that way takes us from 1 to minus 1, then minus 2, minus 3, and so on. It is this feature which also deserves to be comprehended well. Therefore, in our page of conclusion of the features of 3-space VMST format, we should sequentially add as that all these features are ultimately taking us to the same reach. It is this same reach of all these features are going to be of a unified format. We know that unified format means that 7-space format. This 7-space format is designated as a unified format. And we also know that 7-space is a format of a pole star. Pole star is of origin of 6-space, our solar universe. And we know that hypercube 7 is a fourfold manifestation layer which gives us the value as 7, 8, 9 and 10, which means that when 7-space is in the role of a dimension, it gives us the value 34, and this value 34 we see is the transcendental code value of the formulation Purven. Therefore, Purven, the previous state, is of value 34, which is parallel to the summation value of fourfold manifestation layer 7, 8, 9, 10, which means 7-space in the role of the dimension. This as such would mean that pole star, which is the origin of 6-space, therefore the origin of 6-space, 7-space, pole star, it is in the role of origin, but when it takes the role of dimension. Therefore, when pole star is in the role of a dimension, so there would be flow of a 7 streams, and 6 space we know will take as motion will take us to 9 space as origin. It is this feature which is the feature of recycling order of the mathematics of Ganita Sutras, which after exhaustively reaching at the unified format, then from that unified format state, when it becomes in a dynamic state, then it becomes Ekadhikain Purvain of the organization of 9 and 7. Therefore, one shall have a pause here and take note that 3 space Vedic Mathematics, Science and Technology format takes us to a cyclic state in which this Ganita Sutra's text is organizing itself. Therefore, when sequentially we reach from Ekadhikain Purvain up till Gunak Samuchya, then it doesn't conclude, rather from here it goes in a cyclic order. It is this cyclic order which is called a punar. Punar means again. Therefore, this punar, which is of a value 19, this punar state is the state which is attained, and this attainment is that when the 6 space has a origin, when 6 space, our solar universe, with 7 space at its origin, when this origin is stripped out, is transcended out, this 3 space domain splits into a pair of 6 space domains, and it gives us a value 19. It is this attainment of value 19 which will amount to that we are having our solar universe as of northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. So both these spheres are of the value, features and format of 6 space itself. It is this reduplication. It is this duplication and reduplication inherent feature of the organization format of Ganita Sutras which deserves to be comprehended well. Therefore, we shall give a note in our 3 space Vedic mathematics format conclusion. The conclusive feature of 3 space VMST format is that this format is inherently organized to refold itself and put everything in a cyclic order, and the organization format of Ganita Sutras as such takes us from linear order to a spatial order. Therefore, to have a final conclusion about Ganita Sutras 1 to 7 parallel to the 7 geometries range of a 3 space with hypercube 7 versions as the representative regular bodies of these 7 geometries range. Then when we reach here, which is Sankalan, Vyavakalan, Bhyam, this Sankalan means consolidation, means compilation, and Vyavakalan means unfolding it or utilizing it. Therefore, these features of northern hemisphere and these features of southern hemisphere, when are fulfilling each other, therefore the northern hemisphere fulfills the southern hemisphere and southern hemisphere fulfills the northern hemisphere, and this happens because of the transcendental domain of value 18. It is this value 18 which is the focal value, and this value 18 we can see is of a fourfold manifestation layer with 3 space in the role of dimension. Therefore, it is the solid dimension it is the solid dimension which is northeast diagonal. When the format 7 cross 7 grid is folded, that there everything stands folded around this northeast diagonal, then it gives the one part of it becomes the northern hemisphere and other part becomes the southern hemisphere, and the central line, the focus line, this solid line, this is a line around which as axis of our solar universe that the existence phenomenon revolves and it rejuvenates. And so it is this feature of three-space VMST which deserves to be imbibed well. Therefore, when we have 7 versions, then one way to reach it is from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, then have it in the opposite orientation 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and with it to reach at the middle of it the 4th version, which will be providing us transformation of its own. So it is this 4th version which becomes a version of a focus. It is this version in which half of the boundary is intact and remaining half of the boundary is stripped off. So if we have a fresh visit to one space, hypercube 1, we know hypercube 1 or interval is having 3 versions. When there are 2 endpoints, there is one endpoint and there is no endpoint. However, it gives us 4 versions. This is the version with 2. Here would be pair of versions with one endpoint. So one endpoint can be either this one or the second one, and then there is absence of point. So in fact there are 4 versions, though there are 3 geometries, but in fact there are 4 versions. These 4 versions with the middle pair of versions getting unified. It is this unification at the middle which becomes the essential feature to understand how 3-space VMST format gets consolidated at the middle and how it starts unfolding from the middle without giving any indication of any external features disturbance. It is because of it that we know that hypercircles 1 to 7 increase, hypercircle 8 onwards decrease, and this increase and decrease is somewhere in between. Therefore, these whole numbers values 1 to 7 and 8 onwards give us change at the middle. It is this change at the middle which deserves to be comprehended. It is only with comprehension of this change at the middle, because of which hypercircles 1 to 7 increase while hypercircles 8 onwards start decreasing. It is this key, it is this inherent feature, it is this characteristic of 3-space Vedic mathematics, science and technology which deserves to be comprehended well. Therefore, we shall give a note that the students of Vedic mathematics, every sadhaka is to pray, and this prayer is to be as per the text of Ganita Sutras. The text of Ganita Sutras is the prayer of the sadhakas of Vedic mathematics, science and technology. It is this prayer which will tell us that when we sequentially reach 1 to 7 and when otherwise we reach with the reverse orientation, then at the middle there is a pravartya yojet. This pravartya yojet means transpose and unite. This transposition and unification is the feature which deserves to be comprehended well. However, when we transcend through it, taking it to be 2 as well 1, so when we transcend from here, then at this 7, we know we reach at Sankalan and Vyakalan Bhyam. Therefore, there is compilation and there is a utilization. Things are compiling and things are decompiling. There is going to be folding of the process and unfolding process. Both are happening here because of the orientation permissible at the middle. It is this permissibility of orientation at the middle, and it is this simultaneous compilation, folding and unfolding process at value 7. These features combined together deserve to be appreciated, visualized, and to comprehended in terms of the 7 versions of Hypercube 7, and these 7 versions being the representative regular bodies of 7 geometries range. Now let us see that when we are having a 3-dimensional frame of linear axis and transcend further with 3-dimensional frame of spatial dimensions and step ahead 3-dimensional frame of 3 solid dimensions. We know that when we are having a synthesis process of the linear dimensions, it takes us to value 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, like that. But when we are synthesizing the spatial dimensions, we reach at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and so on. However, when we are synthesizing the solid dimensions, the values comes to be 3, 5, 6, 6, 5, 3, 0. See this value 3, 5, 6, 6, 5, 3, 0. So when we are having 0 number of dimensions, so it will give us 0, 3, 5, 6, 6, 5. This is parabolic, this is symmetrical, and the symmetry is so that the middle of this is transited as parallel values. It is this feature when there is a transition and there is a symmetrical behavior, it is a parabolic behavior, and this parabolic behavior is when we start with a 0 as a value. Therefore, 0 number of dimensions to 7 number of dimensions gives us the values 0, 3, 5, 6, 6, 5, 3, 0. And when this gets superimposed upon this central solid transcendental line of this particular grid in both its orientations. It is this way that the organization format of 3-space Vedic mathematics, science and technology becomes of such a features that its whole process folds and unfolds from the middle central solid line of the grid, and around the grid becomes a parabolic structure of synthesis of this solid dimensional setup. Therefore, solid dimensions, 3-space in the role of a dimension. So solid dimension in its synthesis takes us to this parabolic curve format. It is this parabolic curve format which becomes a flow around this central line. Therefore, we shall conclude that the 3-space VMST is actually organizing itself around the solid line, and this solid line is giving us a pair of parabolic curves around its both sides, which ultimately become northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. And it is because of this symmetry, it is because of this unification, it is because of the central transcendental line. So around this particular central transcendental line, which of its own gives a parabolic organization around its both sides, making it to be a northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere remaining unified. It is this phenomenon of unification of our solar universe as northern hemisphere and as southern hemisphere. Therefore, this northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere getting unified in terms of a solid dimensional axis, and solid dimensional axis would mean that 3-space in the role of a dimension, and 3-space in the role of a dimension takes us to 3, 4, 5, 6, a fourfold manifestation layer of Hypercube 5. We should recapitulate that the text of Ganita Sutras and Upsutras are not utilizing 3, 4, 5 and 6. So 3, 4, 5 and 6 as Hypercube 5 is the base of the organization. So this text of Ganita Sutras and Upsutras is being sustained by the transcendental base, means by a 3 space in the role of a dimension. And 3 space in the role of a dimension takes us to a format for 3 space VMST. And this format in the form of this particular grid is organizing around the central transcendental order. This is solid order, 3 space in the role of a dimension. Therefore, one shall pray in terms of the text of the Ganita Sutras, one shall meditate in terms of the mathematical domains of these Ganita Sutras, and one shall attain a unified state, 7 steps state in terms of the format of 3 space VMST. And it is with attainment of this format, unified state for our mind, so mathematical mind of a unified state will be in a position to have a parallel progression along with the progression of intelligence field upon the consciousness base. And once this is attained, then sadhakas shall pray, meditate, and to continue praying. And which is with this prayer and it is with this transcendental meditation that 3 space Vedic mathematics format will of its own transit and transform into a 4 space VMST, and consequentially will reach up to the Parbrahm state. So next phase from tomorrow would be the phase when we shall be transiting and transforming from 3 space VMST format to 4 space VMST format. 4 space VMST format is creator's space. So from tomorrow we shall be transiting and transforming into creator's space. Therefore, one shall sit comfortably, one shall transcend and permit the transcending mind to glimpse the existence phenomenon of entire existence phenomenon is being a phenomenon within creator's space. We are existing within creator's space. Our hypercube 3 with spatial boundaries melt of their own. It is this melting of the spatial boundary which will result into melting of the mental state of a linear order. It is with the melting of the mental state of a linear order that we shall be entering new domain of a spatial order, creator space. Therefore, sadhakas from this stage onwards can congratulate themselves and feel blissful that really from tomorrow, from next stage, they are entering Vedic mathematical domain of a creator's space. One shall recapitulate, one shall consolidate, one shall continue praying, one shall meditate, one shall attain a unified state, mental state, and from that state onwards start melting their mental state of a linear order, enter creator space of a spatial order. Thank you very much.